Hello, this is the Edgware and Hendon Reform Synagogue live stream, and we're about to have a conversation with Brazil. But that's coming in a moment. I'll start with myself on there. Let me let everybody in who's waiting to come and join us. Lovely, some folks are coming in. Brilliant. Let's do a gallery view so we can see everybody. Hello, Janet. Hello, Judy. Hello, Jill. And there's a couple of anonymous connecting to audios at the moment. And we've also got on the live stream already another 7 people waiting. So we will be all together pretty soon. Just waiting for folks to come in. Lovely. Well, one thing that we always do at EHRS is start on time. So we'll do that as we normally do today. And it is, there's Sylvia. Fantastic. Okay, she's connecting to audio. I'm going to wait for her for a moment. And Sharon is just coming in now. Oh, and a few more coming in. There we go. Let's bring them all in. Hola, Sylvia. Lovely. Nearly there. Okay, I think we should begin. This is fourth of our EHRS Voices Across the Continent, where what we've had the chance to do is to speak to friends of the EHRS community across the world. And we began with Cape Town, South Africa. And I have to tell you, actually, they liked it so much, they've asked us, can we do it again? And they're going to be coming to have another Voices Across the Continent with us on the 19th of May. So we're going back to Cape Town again, which will be very lovely. A couple of weeks ago, we were in Odessa with the Shirat Hayam community and Rabbi Julia Gris, which was really lovely. Next week, for those of you who remember student Rabbi Eli Friedman, see what he's like 10 years later. We're going to have a connection with his community, Rodef Shalom in Philadelphia, and that's going to be pretty much this time next week. So this hopefully is a continuing series. It's been a lot of fun. And of course, we also had Jeremy Lee in Israel, so plenty going. But this week, we are taking a journey right across the Atlantic Ocean to Sao Paulo in Brazil. And it's lovely to welcome again Rabbi Michel Schlesinger, who is in Sao Paulo right now. He came, as many of you may remember, to EHRS in the summertime together with Juliana, his wife, and also his charming daughters, Naomi and Tamar. We might be able to persuade Naomi to give us a wave at some point. We'll see how we go. And we're going to do what we've done each time, which is to ask, right, what's going on in Sao Paulo? How's life there? Michele is rabbi and senior rabbi of the Congregação Israelita Paulista, which I think is not too far off pronouncing it correctly, I hope. Sylvia, I know, will correct me, and others may as well. As I say, we developed a friendship over the past year. It's been really, really lovely, and it's so nice to be able to speak to you. So Michele will speak a little bit about in Sao Paulo. We'll speak a bit about in London, and then we'll open it up and we'll all just chat with each other till we get to 4:15. So enjoy, and as well as those who are enjoying our live stream, Zoom, there's also another 12 screens on the live stream. So imagine, Michele, you've got about 20-something screens on you, so there's probably about 30 people enjoying this afternoon. Let me hand over to you. How's things in Sao Paulo? And when we get to the discussion, of course, please feel welcome to unmute yourselves in order to participate. Michele, over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Rabbi Mark, for inviting me. Thank you all for having me with you. We are, as you, going through a very difficult time here in Brazil at large, in Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is the epicenter of the pandemic here in Brazil. It's the worst place, and we have moved all of our activities to the virtual realm. We before the coronavirus, we already started to stream some of our activities. So whenever we did some lecture, some class, we broadcasted it, but we have never broadcasted a prayer before coronavirus. So due to the pandemic, we started to broadcast also our prayers, including Shabbat prayers. And in the beginning, it was very awkward. It was very strange for me to be in front of a camera. And I confess to you that it remains being very, very strange for me to pray in front of a camera. All of our activities I do from my home. Besides two activities, there are two activities that I keep doing in person. One of them is cemetery. Whenever I need to go to the cemetery to perform a ceremony, and our Kabbalah Shabbat. We decided to make our Kabbalah Shabbat from our shul, from our synagogue, with very, very few people, only the Chazan, only someone playing an instrument, and myself. We are only three of us in the synagogue. The synagogue is empty, but in order to bring to people the same sense they had before the pandemic, so we decided to make it from the shul, from the synagogue. And we normally had about 400 people in a Kabbalah Shabbat, in a normal Kabbalah Shabbat, and now we have about 1,800 computers connected to us in a normal Kabbalah Shabbat. So it means more than 4,000 people, which is incredible. Some of those people are not Jewish. Some of those people are Jewish, but are not from Sao Paulo or from Brazil or from other parts of the world. And it's amazing the messages that we are getting for people that for so many time couldn't come to the synagogue because of several different reasons, and now they are back. So broadcasting is enable people to come back to the synagogue, which is amazing. So we are sad, we are facing difficult times, but we are trying to see the half full of this glass of water, and to celebrate those people that are able to be with us due to technology. We keep teaching all our classes, bar mitzvah classes, bat mitzvah classes. We postponed all the ceremonies to the second semester, to the second half of the year, starting from August. We are still not sure that we will be able to perform those ceremonies. We are starting to think about high holidays, which is very challenging. Rabbi Mark is also stressed about this, as all of our colleagues. And I really think we will be able to make something in between. So we are going to have a synagogue with very, very few people, and we will stream our services to those who will not be able to attend in person. So if we normally have about 2,000 people, I think we are going to have about 300 people, maybe 400 people, very far away one of each other. And we are going to stream services for those who will not be able to be there. So this is the most likely scenario, in my opinion. We do not really know what is going to happen, but the numbers here in Sao Paulo is starting to increase now. So we are a little bit far from the worst moment. So it's going to come in the next weeks. So we are behind you in the timeline. So it means that we do not see a possibility of reopen our activities before July, maybe August, to start reopening. So the scenario it's very challenging. One thing that I would like to underline that we could bring volunteers to make weekly calls to those people that are alone in their homes. And we have about 600 people being followed weekly by those volunteers who call them to ask if they need some help to buy medicine or to buy food or only chat and to talk a little bit. So we have those volunteers that are working very hard to bring this sense of warmness and of being together in this social distance situation that we all are living in. We have no lockdown still in Sao Paulo, which is a pity in my opinion. We are allowed to go out, but about 45% of people are respecting it, but 55 are not, and this is the situation more or less at this moment. And I think that this situation, just to finish this opening and bring it back to Rabbi Mark, I think that this is leave some. I think Judaism will not be the same. I think that the world will not be the same after the pandemic, and I think that Judaism will not be the same. I think that these virtual possibilities came to stay. Even when we come back with people in our sanctuary, in our synagogue, I think we will not be able to stop broadcasting, to stop streaming our services, because there are plenty of people that can only be connected to us this way. Other interesting thing that we are doing, we have a Jewish hospital here in Sao Paulo, and we are broadcasting our services inside the rooms of the hospital. So the people who are in the hospital are able to follow us doing our services in one of the channels of the TV inside the hospital rooms. So this is more or less what we are doing those days, and I want to bring it back to Rabbi Mark. Thank you again for inviting me.
So thank you so much, Michele, for what you've just shared with us. I'll tell you a little bit about what's happening in London. And some of the people around at the top of the screen are very much part of that and making it happen. Also, by the way, just to tell you, we have another 19 screens on the live stream. So altogether, there's probably, that makes just over 30 screens. So there's probably about 50 of us in this discussion. What we're going to do, I'm going to say a little bit, and then I want to open it up. And as you may recognize, a couple of the people who are here are our own Brazilian and Portuguese speaking members. And I would we'd all love to hear a bit of Portuguese, but please do so and then tell us what you said. That would be very, very useful. It's very nice to have that. So interesting. I mean, one of the things I think that I know you felt when you came to EHRS is where it sat in the Jewish religious spectrum felt very familiar to where your congregation sits, somewhere on that Reform conservative fulcrum, somewhere in that. And although we had live streamed services, that idea of it being the way we do things and the way we do classes, we hadn't done before, but it's become a pretty straightforward thing to do. Friday night services live streamed, Saturday morning services live streamed. Our numbers have not gone up to 1,800 computers, that's for sure. That's extraordinary that effectively you're serving a city, from what I'm hearing. which is really quite something. And as you say, further than that. But yet, yes, our Shabbat morning attendances have been higher through this method, definitely. Our Friday night attendances have been as well. But we've also been having parallel informal services going on with Rabbi Emily, who I know you met when you came over. She has been running a Facebook Live service, which has been informal, alongside the Friday night service and alongside the Shabbat morning service, for those who need more connection and more interaction. And that's been really lovely with all the comments that come through. And I think that's going to have an impact on us in the future because it's been very popular. The numbers are very large for that. And again, I think it's saying something about aspects of our community for the future. Tonight, we have our services or Avodah committee, where we need to start wondering that same question as you are, which is, has this taught us something about our community that's not just about this time, about the accessibility? Similarly, that sense of volunteering is very important. The way we've done it is through something called community circles. So just exactly 100 people have a circle of 10 to 15 households that they keep in regular contact with. And through that circle, which is multi-generational and very much in a local area, as you know, just like your congregation, ours is spread across the whole of the northwest of our city. And people help each other out. They help out each other with shopping and with going to the pharmacy, things like that, where it's required. Here, as you may be aware, we are in lockdown. One of the big issues for our government here is, but it's a beautiful day outside. If I pick up my computer to show you, I fear I'm going to pull all the wires out, so I won't do that. But it doesn't look like Britain out the window. Blue, beautiful skies. We're about to have a bank holiday weekend where we celebrate the victory in Europe at the end of the Second World War. And government's worried that so many people are going to want to enjoy it, be together, be in the parks, etc. Is that going to cause more spread? Like you, where we are in London has been the epicenter of coronavirus, particularly a few weeks ago. It's now moving towards the northeast of the country, we're told, in terms of the higher proportion of people who are suffering from it. But we had the most horrendous series of bereavements in our community, over 30 within about 4 weeks, including Rabbi Neil, who I know you met in the synagogue, but also other beloved members of the shul, and of course just other people who were beloved in their families, and that's been absolutely horrible. And we've had to deal with people not being able to be safely present at funerals, so that funerals have taken place by this technology as well. And that's been very odd. We've been learning how to do it. We've been creating a nightly Ma'ariv online as well because of that sense of families who couldn't gather for Shiva. And I can see in Keith there, who's in one of the windows, has been among the team who's been leading that, making sure that that kind of spiritual support is there. And classes have worked, and some of the classes have taught us new things that we could do. But generally here in Britain, you know, it's a very odd life right now. There's a lot of people who could be in their households, but if they do come into their households, that's it. They can't go back to their other households. So, you know, you've got a household and that's that. And that's who you're with, and you must keep 2 meters away. People are wearing masks outside, which is not a very British thing to do, but is now beginning. People are wearing gloves, queuing up outside our supermarkets so that a supermarket can only have 50 people in at one time. Only supermarkets and pharmacies and some hardware stores are open, and some grocery stores. So a lot of basic stuff you can't get. So I don't know if your hairstyle is deliberate, Michele, but I've got a similar problem. You can't get a haircut anywhere in Britain because there are no barbers open and no hairdressers open. So the glamorous people in these windows are people who can clearly cut their own hair or know somebody who can. But definitely not for me, I'm afraid. You know, many of us are dealing. I know one of the things that I think has been horrible in our bereavements is that feeling that a few of them are people who are very elderly, and it really mattered to them having people come to visit them, the chance to go out for a walk or to go out to the shops. They can't now, and I don't know whether that meant the people who are holding on to life haven't been able to. I've had a bit of that sense, but it also means all our care homes we can't get into, and people are talking to their relatives through windows. it's been a very, very odd situation. So that's kind of where we are. What I love us to do now is let's start talking. I've got a few questions myself, but I want to open it up to all those who are here on Zoom. What I need you to do to be able to do that is, ideally, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you may have the word reactions, in which case what you do is you do this, which kind of puts up a finger, and then I can know that you are wanting to say something, and then let's make sure you unmute. Or you can just unmute yourself. We'll see how it works, and if it gets a bit too Balaganista, then I'll just say, turn your microphones off, let's start again. So would anybody like to kick us off with any questions or discussion or anything you'd like to share from the London experience, anything you'd like to know about the Sao Paulo experience and about Congregação Israelita Paulista? Anybody like to kick us off? Okay, I can see Sharon. Oh, and Linda. Oh, she's worked out how to raise her hand. That's even better. Right, so Linda. So I'm going to go to Sharon and then to Linda. So Sharon, would you begin, please? I need you to unmute yourself first.
Right, it's actually me, Mark.
It's Keith, right. Okay.
Okay, don't worry. Michelle, good to see you. In the newspaper, The Times, yesterday, there was a brief article about Brazil, as well as a couple of other countries whose leadership appear not to recognize the seriousness of COVID. And it went on to say that in Brazil particularly, which is ostensibly a democratic country, that this may have repercussions as far as the electorate are concerned and the relationship between the electorate and the president in due course. Do you have any comments on that?
Yes, thank you for your question. Good to see you. Unfortunately, we are here leading with two kind of problems. The real ones connected to COVID and the unnecessary ones created by our president. And he is unfortunately creating a new crisis every day. He is testing the limits of our democracy. His speeches are in the border of what a democratic leader can say about his country, and the Supreme Court is all the time setting those limits and putting him back inside his position. So unfortunately, instead of directing all of our energies in combating this pandemic, we are leading with those unnecessary challenges, unnecessary crises at the same time. It's very sad. He actually has a huge opportunity on his hands, because every leader in the world is getting stronger with this pandemic situation. Even those leaders who are not that good, they are managing to act in their own favor and in favor of their countries. So a pandemic is a very, very, very sad situation, but it's also an opportunity for a leader to show his or her leadership. And our president is doing everything wrong. He is setting a bad example. He's going out. He is without a mask. He is touching the people in the streets. He's asking people to go out from their homes and to keep working. He has this sense that his re-election depends on economics. So he wants economy to go on, to move on, as if it was possible during a situation like this. So unfortunately, we are here dealing with real problems and with unnecessary ones.
Thank you very much, Michele. Let me now go to Linda, and please, what would you like to comment or ask? Again, I'm going to unmute you properly. There we go. You're unmuted now.
Thank you. I would like to share some thoughts as somebody who is supposedly in the vulnerable category, but I don't feel it. Who probably is common with a lot of people of my age or thereabouts, has felt very disconnected from our grandchildren. It's been very, very difficult. And especially as we had a new baby born at the end of February, who we haven't really been able to see. One of the things that happened during that period was that Brit Milah was suspended, was not allowed until yesterday. Our baby grandson, who's 10 weeks old, had his bris. It was the first one done by our Reform Mole. And we watched it on WhatsApp or Zoom, which was quite a surreal experience, actually. And I also did a virtual baking session with my granddaughters, which was great fun. So there are creative ways that we can get around this and still keep in touch with the people we love. But that was just an aside. My question is that, Michele, you said, we talked about the differences and the changes you've made in the community in the way that you connect with them. And my question is this going to last? The way that we see the world now, we know that our rivers are becoming cleaner, that the skies are cleaner without all the pollution. It would be wonderful if this could just carry on, but my fear is that once we'll just revert and become the usual, polluting, selfish people that we've been, that has brought the planet to the state that it's in. Do you have any thoughts about whether we will be able to maintain some of the good things that have actually come out of this? Over to you.
Michele, you're muted at the moment.
Yes, now I'm back.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question and congratulations. And after Second World War, I think there was a sense that the world needs to cooperate and to work together. And then UN was founded, and the Universal Declaration was written. And the world felt that the right direction was to cooperate and to work together. After some time, I feel that many countries became much more selfish and started with ultra-nationalism speeches and xenophobia, and bad things came back. And now the pandemic, in my opinion, brings back this opportunity for us to understand that we are one world and we need to cooperate and we need to work together. Just as the virus does not differentiate between countries and languages and religions and sexual orientation, we need to work together. We are talking about crossing together the Red Sea, and if someone has already achieved the other edge, it's not sufficient because it's a collective crossing. We need to go hand by hand. Together, we need to do this crossing together. We need to strengthen this sense that we are together and we are going to solve the big problems only if we work together. The big problems in the world are not Christian or Jewish or Muslim, or the big problems are not English or American or Brazilian. The big problems are universal. So we need universal solutions for them. So if we are wise enough, we are going to take advantage of all those technologies and all those solutions that were rapidly developed because of COVID. So in Brazil, in the US, I know maybe in UK as well, to do a medical consultant by technology was not permitted, was not allowed before COVID, and now it became a possibility. So there are so many possibilities that were accelerated by the pandemic, and if we are wise enough, we are going to take advantage of all those new possibilities, including Telejudaism. Telejudaism is something new, but it opens a whole new world of possibilities to bring our communities together and to keep our members connected to their past.
Thank you. Actually, that's a new word on me, Telejudaism. It's quite an intellectual word, so you could catch on, Michele. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Can I ask again? So, Judy, what would you like to ask?
Do I have to unmute? Can you hear me?
I've done it. We can hear you.
Oh, great. It was just what Michele said about having services put in, and you might not know the answer because we're Reform, but how do United and even more religious people manage on a Saturday to stream? Are they allowed to? Or isn't that our business to know?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. Every stream of Judaism and every specific synagogue and every specific rabbi is answering differently to that important question. As I personally see it, we are facing a very challenging moment, and challenging moments need creative answers. And our ancestor had very, very creative solutions for challenging moments. If we remember what happened when the second temple was destroyed by Romans, Judaism was totally reshaped by our rabbis. They were brave enough to redraw, to redesign Judaism from scratch. So if they could do so, I think that it's upon our shoulders to do the same, to have creativity, to reshape, to redesign, to redraw all of our activities to keep in touch with our members and with our communities. So there are many principles in the Talmud that are specifically designed for those kind of situations. So we talk about Shat Adchak. Shat Adchak is a moment of emergency. So if we are not experiencing a moment of emergency now, I do not know what is a moment of emergency. A moment of emergency is exactly what we are facing now. So those principles were created by our rabbis to help us to face those kind of situations. So my answer, and the answer of my synagogue as your answer to this situation is to be very open and very creative, and to keep the focus on the well-being of our members, on their health and on their mental health, on their spiritual health. But I understand that for many of my Orthodox colleagues, it is very, very difficult because they spend all of their lives say that it's forbidden to turn on a light or to turn on a cell phone or a TV on Shabbat or on holidays. And for them, it becomes even more difficult to make this switch, this adaptation. But some of them are doing it. So there was an interesting answer, a response by a Sephardic Orthodox rabbi who lives in Israel, that it was allowed to bring the family together to the Seder, to Pesach Seder, through technology. It was amazing. It was very interesting, but it's not what is happening with the majority of our Orthodox colleagues who do not allow technology during Shabbat.
Thank you very much for your answer. And as many of you will know, that's a bit of an issue in Britain, just as Judy brings out. Our Masorti colleagues are not allowing streaming. They made a decision in the Assembly of Masorti rabbis that they wouldn't. And I know it's been very difficult because some would have liked to, some would have not liked to, but they decided that's what they would do. You said, Michele, this is up to each rabbi. And of course, one of the things in Britain is that, in London, for example, there are a large number of Reform synagogues. So we've had to work quite hard on consistency of response so that we can't have in one synagogue it works like this, another synagogue it works like this, and people questioning how we're making those decisions if we're not consistent between shuls. So all the Reform movement has essentially said, yes, streaming, including of worship, is the right thing to do. We've also done so in terms of pikuach nefesh measures, such as a very difficult thing, which is not allowing mourners at funeral grounds in order that they don't spread the virus between them. Our Orthodox colleagues, again, are not using streaming, but they are obviously for classes and such like, but not for Shabbat worship. So it's been an interesting challenge. I'd love to chuck a question in if I may. And I know Sylvia's there, and I can see that her sound isn't working. So that if Sylvia wants to send a question by email, she should feel welcome to go to rabbi.mark@ehrs.uk. And also any of the people who are on the live stream, if you would like to send a question to rabbi.mark@ehrs.uk, I'll make sure it's posed to Michele. That's rabbi.mark@ehrs.uk. So my question to you is coming from our experience here in Britain. Today, the news has been full of the disproportionate number of deaths from COVID-19 among poorer and more deprived communities in this country, and also among particular ethnic groups. One of the things that's been on the news today is that if you're black in Britain, then if you do get COVID-19 and enter hospital, you're twice as likely to die as if you're white. It's extraordinary. Is this inequality coming out in Sao Paulo, in the favelas? Is it coming out in Brazil in general, in what's happening with the disease?
Yes, it is. Thank you for your question, Mark. Only a remark on the previous question. Here in Brazil, we didn't have one solution for all the synagogues, even for all the synagogues from the same movement. Each synagogue decided by itself. So my congregation is both connected to the conservative and to the Reform movement. Our solution was, yes, to broadcast even during Shabbat, but there is another conservative synagogue in Sao Paulo that decided not to broadcast during Shabbat, and they are doing a Kabbalat Shabbat just before the start, the actual start of Shabbat. So it was more a decision of one by one decision. And I know that in the States, there are many conservative synagogues streaming on Shabbat. So I understand that the decision not to stream it specifically by the English conservative assembly and not the international conservative assembly. As to inequality, what happened here in Brazil, that in the beginning, only rich people suffered from COVID because those people were able to travel abroad and brought the disease to Brazil. So only people who were in Italy, in Spain, in China, and normally more wealthy people that have the possibility of travel around the world, brought this disease to their families, to their inner circle. So in the beginning, it was very interesting. Only private hospitals had cases of COVID. And now it is arriving in the favelas, and it is achieving the poor people, poor population. And now we are starting to be really worried, because those people depend on public health that is not as good as yours. And they, in some cases, have not even clean water in their houses to take showers or to wash their hands. So we are talking about a very, very dangerous situation, because if COVID really starts to spread among this poor population, the numbers can become huge, even bigger than the numbers that we see in the US. So we are very, very, very concerned. Black people, yes, are getting the virus more than white people here in Brazil, and this is connected to the history of slavery here in Brazil, and they are poorer. There are more poor Black people than white people in Brazil, unfortunately, and they are getting more virus, and they, when they get it, whenever they get it, they get worse than white people. So this inequality, unfortunately, is reflecting on COVID as well.
Thank you very much for that. And I think I could see quite a reaction from the people across the screen when they heard it was the rich people who brought it in. That was, wow. So I'd love to ask if there are any other questions from anybody here. I can see that Sylvia has now connected up to her iPad. So I don't know if there's anything you would like to ask her. I'm going to unmute you. Let's see if it works. If you press unmute on your iPad, that's it.
Can you hear?
Yes, Sylvia,
Yes.
We can hear you. Anything you would like
Can you
to
hear
ask
me?
us? We can.
Yes?
And you can ask it in Portuguese and then we'll translate.
But can you hear?
We
can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Oh,
yes.
Just a moment. Hold on, because hold on. It's something. I have to put the other one. I have two things here.
Don't worry, you can speak as you are.
Just a moment. Falar. Oi, tudo bem? Né? Aí no Brasil, não é? I can even speak in English. Yeah. I read about this mathematician in Israel, Isaac Ben Israel. Did you hear about him? He mentioned that this corona would last only 70 days. Is in Israel. He's a well-known mathematician.
Right.
Have you heard about this? So we pray that he's right. He said some scientists said not agree with him, but you never know. So I'm praying that he's right. 70 days the corona died out in every country according to his calculations. And he's top mathematician in Israel. So that's all we hope, because it's so terrible. Anyway, falando português, né? Muito prazer vê-lo novamente. Eu escrevo para você. Assim, eu queria aquele livro, the book that you wrote. I didn't get it. I would be interested in your book. Yes? Maybe if you send to the rabbi, he sent. Yeah, very interesting in that book.
I have it for you, Sylvia, in my office for the next time we see each other.
Regards to your family, yes, to everyone. Very nice to see you again. And I hope, I booked holidays in October to Brazil, but depends on the situation. If it things better, maybe we go. Depends how things are, okay? Anyway, very nice to see you again.
Thank you, Sylvia. Lovely to see you and to hear you speaking as well. So let me just go around one more time. Any questions or comments that anybody else has as we come towards the end of this session? I've certainly got time for another one if you would like, if there's anything that's occurring to anybody here. I'm also just going to check on the emails, see if any have come in by email. Otherwise, I know I've got a last one I'd love to ask of you. So let me just check if any have come in on the emails. No, so that's okay. Yeah, just a really practical question. So, are your kids going to school? You said you don't have lockdown. Children going to school, shops open, restaurants open. what's going on? Or are you making a choice, or people in your community making a choice, even if it is open, I'm not going? How are you dealing with that?
Thank you for the question. Shops are closed, restaurants are closed, and the pubs are closed, and they can only make deliveries. We have only supermarket and drug stores, and we have no schools, so the kids are studying online. They have classes on the computer, just as we are chatting now. And but we are allowed to be outside in the streets. So there are many private offices that are operating because no one is checking it. So there are some lawyers who decided to keep going to their offices. There are some private offices working, but public places opened to the white public are forbidden to operate during those days. And we are working from home and trying to see the advantage of having breakfast, lunch, and dinner all together with the family, which I don't remember doing that for many years. So yes, challenging times, but with some beautiful things also to take advantage of.
Thank you. And that really takes us to the end, as we've now reached 4:15. Michele, it's been so lovely to be with you again. And it's just a fascinating side effect, a positive side effect, like you say, the glass half full. That one of the things this has done is it's brought us closer to communities all around the world, and just wish you and your community well. I have to say, I'm really tempted to stay up till midnight and find out what it is about your Kabbalat Shabbat that brings 1,800 people to enjoy it, and what it is that brings 400 people as well. Let's try and work that one out, everybody, because that's really something. And I'm sure what I'm going to discover is a community that is truly creating connection and finding some beautiful ways to do it. So I just want to wish you well, and Juliana and Naomi and Tamar, and we'll be back in contact with each other, I know, after this call. But just like to say to everybody who's been here, it's been really lovely to be with you all, and also to everybody who was watching on the live stream. And they stuck to it, Michele. So you've kept everybody enthralled and enjoying learning together. I think we shared a lot. And next week, in the same place, on Thursday, the 14th of May at 4 o'clock, Rabbi Eli Friedman, who many of you will remember as a student rabbi at EHRS now about 11 years ago, and he was in the same class as Rabbi Debbie all the way through Learbeck College, which is why we're doing that. So Debbie's going to be with Eli, and we're going to do the same thing. And this time we'll stay across the Atlantic, but we'll go north a few thousand miles to Philadelphia to Congregation Rodef Shalom. So just want to say to everybody, wish you well, keep healthy. See you all soon, and classes, whatever you might like to join, and looking forward to seeing everybody in the future. And Michele, keep well. Tudo bom. Bye now.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Stay healthy.
I now need to keep the Zoom on because the live stream takes about 2 minutes to catch up. So if I turn it off, then the whole thing cuts. So I just have to sit politely and just wait. And then, Michele, if you wait with me, then we can chat for a moment afterwards. So just say goodbye to everybody else when you're ready to leave this meeting. Lovely to see you all. Goodbye, Jill. See you soon. Oh, sorry, I'll unmute you.
Sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get myself off here.
I said, I can do it for you. Don't worry. Bye now.
I've lost the tab. Thank you very much.
Bye. Good to see you.
I'm not techie, I told you.
See you soon now. Bye. So I'm just going to check that the live stream has stopped at the caught up with us, and then I can turn it off.
I'm not techie, I told you.